Welcome to Tony's Photography Corner. We're out camping. We've got 3 dogs, 1 tent and two solar panels. I'm playing with power. Yesterday, when I went to go and get water, I noticed this funny little tree. It's kind of rather interesting, so I thought let's take a few photographs of it. The only thing is I don't have neutral density filters. I don't know if anyone has heard of case filters. They look quite decent. But what we're going to do is we're going to we're going to cross over here. I better go and grab Lizzie. This is the tree. Let me go and get Lizzie. Right, so this is the tree. Before we get camera stuff out, let's just have a little look. Let's have a little look around. The first thing to notice is with the sun right behind me, obviously we don't want to take it from this angle because my shadow is in the picture, so we will need to come down here, and I think this angle here, maybe, I'm not sure, maybe from there, but maybe from here. We'll take a photograph from here, through here. We've still got plenty of light, so we're not in any rush. Right, so this time we have got the correct camera. So we've got the Z8 with the 24 to 120 lens. Right, so what we'll do is, first of all, we'll take the lens cap off, put it safely in your pocket, line up the shot, and that's pretty decent through there. So we want a little bit of a depth of field because we're outside. So we'll open up to f11. That's affected the ISO. It bumped it up to 1000. So let's get the shutter speed down to 120. So we'll get the shutter speed down to 1/25. We're on 35 millimeters, not milliliters, millimeters on the lens. So obviously you need to be using something, you know, at least as fast as your focal doodads. So 125 is more than enough. Plus obviously we've got you know, image stabilization or things, and we've obviously got dogs wandering around in the photo. So we'll zoom back a little bit, we'll focus. So that was our ISO 280, which is pretty decent. You want to keep the ISO, you know, as low as possible. we might get away with f8 because we're quite wide. If we're at 24mm, then that brings the ISO down to 80, and f8 would give, you know, a decent amount of depth of field, given the tree is the main, you know, the main topic of conversation, as it were. Get the tripod. My only slight concern is if I put the tripod out, is that the dogs will knock it. Right, we can get to f16, and that's an ISO of 72, but a 125 second thing, a 25th of a second thing. If we had neutral density filters, then we could make the shutter speed even slower, and then the water, we could, you know, we could not blur it, but, you know, we could smooth the water out, which can look quite nice, but we don't have neutral density filters. One advantage of a tripod with long legs is when you're on the side of a hill like this, you can open up.
When opening up a tripod on the side of a hill like this, have two legs downhill, one leg uphill.
You can open up your legs, pardon the French, and obviously if you put your camera on a tripod, level it up, check through the viewfinder. So obviously one way that you can do it is to just press the button, but obviously that's not the best way, because you could add camera shake, you know, into it, which you don't want. And obviously the other way that you can do this is with the self timer. So we've got the self timer set at 2 seconds. So press the shutter button, take your hand away, and then 2 seconds later it will take the photo. There. So that's the other way of, you know, avoiding camera shake. The other way is if you've got one of these funny contraptions. This is probably the only thing that goes back to my F5 days, going back a long time. And with this, you can turn the screen on the back. Obviously, just double check the focus, make sure everything's set. We've turned the self timer off, and you can just take pictures by pressing your button. This is an MC30, and it's a remnant of the old days, and it's good that Nikon, you know, still have, you know, a self timer, or a cable release, I mean, from a long time ago that still works. I think what we'll do is we'll go around, because it's getting very shady here now. Let's go around over there and we'll just have a look over that side. Had a look over here, and I think we can get quite a nice little shot from over here. So if we take the ISO, oh no, we're let's have a look. So, all right, well, we got the ISO on 250, which is okay. That's quite low. So we can handhold this one. So we got 1/25. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dial in -1/3, maybe -1/7 of a stop. So I was just noticing that it was just starting to clip on the highlights up there. And we can get Lassie in. Oop. If she nearly falls over. And we can get t'other one in too. I was just yeah, so they're they're both over by the they're both over by that tree. All right, so we've got both dogs, and then just zoom in and check on them. Yeah, that looks that doesn't look too bad. I think Lassie was a bit blurry in that one because I think she was moving moving quite a bit. So I'm just focusing on the tree and then kind of thinking that depth of field will cover the dogs to a degree because they're fairly close to the tree. When they came down here a little bit more, then I just focused loosely on them and then quickly recomposed with back button autofocus. So I've got the autofocus on. So I focus by pressing the back button, and then when you let go of it, focus is locked. So you don't have to lock focus or anything like that. It is quite shady on this side, so I don't know, how that will come out, but we'll have a bit of a play with it and see. I think what we'll do is we'll take a picture through here. So we'll just put that down there, and then we've got less shade to mess around with. I will say that I think the dynamic range of this camera is being tested because it's virtually clipping, both sides, but it's more important to not have the whites clip. I think -0.7 is probably okay, and we're on 80th of a second, f11, and the ISO is 1/60th. So we're definitely relying on the image stabilization there, but we've got it, it's turned on normal, so that should be, where's oh, there's Lizzie. So we've taken a few pictures of the tree. I'm still using a 13-year-old, or from actually 12-year-old iMac, and it's still going fine, but obviously when I put a lot of photographs into it, then it's clinging on, and when I do video work, I'm having to turn the video into small proxy files so that I can work on small files and then export the main thing. I need to get an M4 Max Studio sometime soon. I was going to get one now, and then Trump came along and effed up the world's economy, and I can't afford it at the moment. So yeah, we're having to hold fire because of that moron. But we will get there. We've got little Lizzie over here. So let's get down a little bit lower and and then Lizzie decided to run over to me. We'll try Lizzie again in a minute. Bella, off. All right, she's just going to follow me now. All right. Well, we'll think about dogs another time. All right. Well, we've done a few photographs of the tree. We're just back in camp here, and I was just thinking when Lizzie came charging towards me, one function that I've done in the options, and I didn't think of it, to be honest, but the function button on the lens I've changed to like maximum speed. So in other words, if I can take these off now as well. So if I'm shooting a landscape and I've just got spot autofocus, so just behind you is some grass, let's just assume I was just taking a picture of the grass, and then suddenly, and I've obviously got, f11, 80th of a second, 125 ISO, and I suddenly, a tiger or something suddenly came charging towards me, then if I press the button on the side, it immediately switches it over to aperture priority and the widest open aperture priority, which was f4, and the fastest shutter speed that there is, which is 1/13,000th, and maximum ISO, which is 1280, and I think I've got this set up for dynamic autofocus in the middle box, but maybe a different setting for autofocus, would be better for that. And I've got it set to 10 frames per second. So you've kind of just got everything absolute maximum, not necessarily for, the absolute best quality, but for that once in a lifetime, of a tiger charging towards you that wants to eat you alive. So it's kind of, you just want to get that shot. And it's basically switched over to that, and then when you finish, you just press that button again. And I've got it on the hold, so you kind of press it once and then it stays in that, so then I can capture the tiger charging towards me, and obviously it's in auto detect, so it'll detect anything that it thinks that's important. So I'm assuming that it will focus on that rampaging tiger, and then as soon as the tiger that's obviously in my imagination disappears, you then press that side button again, and then you're right back to where you were. 125th ISO, f11, 1/80th of a second, and taking a picture of the grass. I might tweak the setting, on that one, but that's how I've got it set up at the moment. And then the buttons in the front, so my function 1, I've got to change for a wide area full area autofocus. I haven't got the 3D option on that one because I've programmed function 2 for 3D, and as long as I hold the button in, I don't even have to be using the autofocus back button. So as long as it's in the middle of the frame, so if I frame up the DJI here, and then I can then take a picture, and then as soon as I let go, it goes back to what I was in before, which is you know, single point autofocus. So again, in effect, I could take a photograph of the grass, and then if something, you know, here needed tracking, then I can move around the frame and it will focus on that. May not be 100% sharp because obviously you're still on 80th of a second. You know, so obviously if you're moving like that, then, so, you know, you may want to, you know, if you are going to do something like that, then you may want to just quickly adjust shutter speed and aperture, you know, if you suddenly want to be tracking something. But, you know, you can, you know, in theory, you know, if you were photographing at 500th, Lizzie, but if you were photographing something at, go back, go, oh, hello, go back. If you were photographing something at 500ths of a second, 500 ISO, I can then bottom to, you know, function 2, and then it's tracking, you know, wherever I'm pointing, basically. I haven't got all the fancy things to show you what it looks like inside. I'm just talking to you. Don't forget that if you do the bracket thing to put it back to 0, which I had forgotten to do, that's just something else to remember. But like I said, you know, I used to do a lot of photography, and then I kind of got out of it for 15 years, and it's just something that I've always enjoyed it, and you know, it's something that I would like to, you know, slowly just try and get back into. I think it's time to head back, put the kettle on, and chill out and relax for the evening. And thanks very much for watching. We'll try and do some more videos like this, you know, in the future. Thanks very much.